The Independent Electoral Commission, INEC, has ruled out the possibility of another extension of voters' registration, which ended on Sunday. Meanwhile, the Commission has assured new voter registrants that permanent voters cards, the PVCs for captured persons, would be ready between October and November. INEC National Commissioner Information and Publicity Festus Okoye disclosed this while monitoring the concluding segment of the registration in Awka, Anambra State. On Sunday, Okoye noted that the INEC had to bring the exercise to a close to enable the Commission to cross-check data collated. Now, joining us now in the INEC National Commissioner on Information Voter Education, Festus Okoye. He will be telling us about the exercise as well as how the new population of voters could affect preparation and logistics for the 2023 general election. I want to say thank you very much for joining us here on Newsday. Now, Mr. Okoye, we'll start it off by asking.
Thank you so much.
Yes, INEC certainly knows that the appetite for the procurement of the PVCs is on an all-time high. And so many people, for a myriad of reasons, have not been able to register. Does it bother you that INEC is closing that particular window, knowing that so many people, not for their own lack of commitment or probably not for lack of trying, but due to a myriad of problems, have not been able to register for their PVC ahead of the 2023 general elections?
Yes, it will be to the joy of the Independent National Electoral Commission and to the elevation of our electoral process if every individual who is legally qualified to register registers. And we projected that we should, give enough time for all eligible registrants to register. And that was why we spaced out the voters registration process, the CVR, over a period of 30 months to enable all registrants, even for people, to stroll into our state or local government offices and register. Unfortunately, the deluge, the surge started building up when it was just 2 weeks to the close of the registration exercise. And based on the surge and the deluge, we extended the voters registration exercise by another 1 month. Not only that, we also deployed additional staff to all the registration areas. We deployed additional IVET machines to all the registration areas. We increased the period for registration from 9 a.m. in the morning to 5 p.m. in the evening, and also included Saturdays and Sundays. But unfortunately, we have to bring this process to an end because we cannot go ad infinitum. Our electoral process is constitutionally and legally circumscribed. And if we continue with this voters registration exercise ad infinitum, it will do damage to our timelines and schedule of activities for the 2023 general election.
Now that the continuous voters registration exercise is over, so what other tasks will INEC be focusing on ahead of the 2023 elections?
Well, unfortunately, the CVR is not over. This is because we are going to subject the entire data that was collected during the CVR exercise to a cleanup exercise using our ABIs to remove double and multiple registrants. As you are aware, when we cleaned up the data relating to the first and second quarter of the registration process, we removed over 46% of double and multiple registrants. So we are going to subject this particular data for the third and fourth quarter of this registration process to the same cleanup. Thereafter, we are going to subject the data to display because Section 19, Subsection 1 of the Electoral Act 2022 makes it mandatory that the Commission shall display the voters' register for claims and objections in the 774 local government areas of Nigeria and in the 8,809 registration areas. And by our own projection, if we register, if we consolidate the voters register and it comes to around 95 million, 95 million registered voters, the implication is that we are going to print over 28,500,000 pages of documents to display in these areas. And then thereafter, we are supposed to print the PVCs of all the legally qualified registrants and then take them back to the states, take them back to the local governments, take them back to the registration areas for people to collect their PVCs. And then we'll begin to audit our state and local government offices to make sure that all our non-sensitive materials are in place, and then we begin to package our offices to get them ready for the 2023 general election, and then continue with monitoring political party campaigns, political party finances, and the other activities slated in the timetable and schedule of activities.
Mr. Okoye, surely it is a Herculean task. A large amount of work needs to be done, and it has to be done meticulously so, it seems, in order to make sure things are right and there aren't any errors. But in terms of individuals who were lastminute.com and did register for their voters' cards but were unable to pick up their physical cards, what kind of information should they be expecting about when they will be able to pick up those cards, seeing as there is a long amount of steps that needs to be taken before they are finally printed out and sorted through? Around what time would they be able to see that? And will it be in time for the elections come February?
Well, for those who registered between the 15th day of January 2022 and 30th day of June 2022, the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, has assured that their PVCs will be ready for collection in October. For those who registered between the first day of 2022, their PVCs will be ready for collection in November. Now, when these PVCs are ready, for those who have email accounts, we are going to send messages to them telling them that their PVCs are ready. For those who supply their telephone numbers, we are going to send bulk SMS to all of them. And we're also going to make announcements on radio and on television. And then we are also going to liaise with community leaders, traditional rulers, religious leaders, women-based organizations, civil society groups and organizations, the Bar Association, for them to assist in mobilizing and sensitizing people, and also help in making sure that people come to collect their PVCs. We have designed a clear protocol on how to get people to collect these PVCs without them going through through a lot. We want the PVC collection to be seamless, and we have designed protocols. So many civil society organizations, including the Bar Association, have volunteered to assist the commission when it is time for PVC collection. And we're also going to contact the NYSC for them to also assist in the PVC collection. So we are confident that all those who registered, we collect their PVCs on or before December by the protocols we have designed.
All right, Mr. Okoye, let's get back to those who have not been able to register. You have said that because of logistical reasons and administrative house cleaning, you might need to actually put an end to the registration. But people will say that this shouldn't even be the case in the 21st century, understanding that it shouldn't take that long, that if banks can issue ATM cards in less than 15 minutes, why is it that the Independent National Electoral Commission, with more funds, probably cannot even do the same, that they would have to wait for months before cards can be delivered to people?
Well, the PVC issued by the Independent National Electoral Commission has power, it has value, it has potency, and it is people's sovereign identity to make a change in terms of the voting process. So for you to get your name on the voters' roll, you must pass both the constitutional and legal qualifications and legal threshold for you to get your name on the voters' register. Not only that, the work of the Independent National Electoral Commission, as I pointed out, is constitutionally and legally circumscribed. There are thresholds and timelines for doing certain things. If you look at Section 9, subsection 1 of the Electoral Act, as well as Section 19, subsection 1, it gives a cutoff period within which the Independent National Electoral Commission cannot either register voters, update the voters register, or revise the voters register. Not only that, we need to have a robust voters register. A clean voters register gives confidence to the critical stakeholders that it is only people who are legally qualified that can vote in any election.
But Mr. Okoye, if the INEC, if the bulk actually stops at the INEC stable, and if probably the problem comes from INEC, Should the people bear the brunt for probably, because a lot of people complain that machines were not working, the servers were down. Who should bear responsibility for that? Should it be the people or INEC themselves?
No, I think we should put the issues in proper perspective and in proper context. Within this particular period, over 28 million Nigerians have visited the INEC online registration portal.
But how about the rest of Nigerians that didn't
have problems? No, just a minute. During this particular period, sometimes in our local government offices, we register a single individual a day. It is only towards the last period of this particular exercise that people started surging to our registration centers. And we had planned our exercise in such a way that people can just stroll in to our local government offices, to our state offices, and to our registration area centers and get themselves registered. So it is not the fault of the Independent National Electoral Commission. The issue of equipment not working is neither here nor there. This is because those equipment are programmed to register maybe 300 persons per day. And then when you have 10,000 persons surging on one single equipment, there is no way we can cope with it. And that was why we gave 13 months for people to turn up to come and register. We must find ways and means of changing the attitude of our people towards this last-minute rush. Our electoral process is based on a program, it's based on a plan. Unless we remain within our plan, we are going to get off the window of the constitutional and legal provisions that makes an election constitutionally and legally circumscribed. And so we must bear in mind that some of the things we are doing are not just by fluke. They are constitutionally and legally provided.
Now, we had reports of some of the difficulties that Nigerians experienced when they were trying to register for their PVCs. We were hearing reports of some registration centers being located in private homes, places of worship, faulty registration machine, and alleged commercialization of the registration process, and so many other issues. Has INEC been able to look into all this and see how they can correct it or probably make amends?
In all the places where we got reports of challenges, we carried out investigation. In Anambra, for instance, the administrative secretary set up what we call a complaints desk and also set up a complaints matrix through which people were reporting challenges they have. And as at the last count, there were 58 reports, and he dealt with all those reports expeditiously. In places where we had reports of voter suppression or people being suppressed and prevented from registering, we did investigate. In one of the instances, we investigated and withdrew the registration officers immediately and issued them with query, and we are proceeding with disciplinary proceedings against them. But you know, in some of the registration centers, persons who are not INEC staff also took advantage. Some of them were collecting money from people in order to photocopy one document or the other. And so people took advantage. I'm not saying that none of our registration officers was found wanting. Of course, there were a few that were found wanting, but I think that the bulk of them performed exceedingly well, and so most of them are really exhausted. They have been on this process morning, afternoon, and night, and they are really exhausted. And we commend their resilience and commend their patriotism in making sure that the bulk of Nigerians who presented themselves for registration got registered.
And speaking of those who were part of the mechanism in order to make sure that this voters registration was continuous, especially with the extension that was given, that was rallied for and given about a month ago, can you give us your assessment on, number one, the amount of voters that have turned up since the extension was announced, and the amount of work that was done on both sides, and what it means for the elections come February 2023. Is this a good omen of a lot of people turning out, or is this just more work to sort through?
Well, from the Commission's perspective, we believe that the new surge, the new enthusiasm by especially the youth of this country to get their permanent voters cards and also to get their names on the voters roll is an affirmation of their faith in the ability of the Independent National Electoral Commission to conduct free, fair, and transparent election. The youth have also seen that the deepening of the use of technology in the electoral process has to a large extent, obviated pernicious human interference in the process. So they believe that when they go out to go and vote, that their votes will count. And that was why the Commission put in extra effort to make sure that as many people as possible get to register. But if you see, the day we announced that this voters registration exercise has been extended from the 1st day of July to the 31st day of July, people simply went home and then returned a week to the close of the period. So I'm still insisting that we as a people and as a nation, we must find a way of reversing this thing that is more or less becoming a norm. Something will be going on for 1 year. We will wait until it is 2 weeks to the terminal period, and then we surge and begin to put pressure on the system. If we change it, it will do well for our electoral process and also do well for other sectors of the economy.
But Mr. Okoye, that is a valid point, but shouldn't this be factored into the planning process that this surge is expected? Because that is what should be done, because the duty of INEC is to ensure that people get registered regardless of their predilectives or when they want to come or not. And also my question is this: a lot of people have questioned and also queried INEC as an unbiased umpire when it comes to voter registration and collection of PVCs, because several people have weaponized the lapses in these processes to disenfranchise people from participating in previous elections.
Well, I can only speak for the present commission. This present commission has done a lot to make sure that people re-engage with the electoral process. The chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission was in Lagos and participated in various concerts aimed at sensitizing people and also encouraging people to go out and register. He did the same thing in the FCT. Even he went to Kano to supervise the last lap of the voters registration process himself. So there is no way we can begin to, as a commission, engage in voter suppression when we are putting in so much to make sure that people get their names on the voters register. I think that the time has come when we must begin to speak to those who engage in voter suppression and who also try to make sure that they suppress the votes. The commission is desirous of making sure that we increase voter turnout in our elections. And from the elections we conducted in Edo to Ondo to Anambra to Ekiti and to Osun State, you can see that there has been a steady improvement in our electoral process. And this commission has never been ashamed to admit its own mistakes. The moment we make mistakes, we move ahead to correct it. That is why you see from every election, we improve with every election. And we will keep on making improvements from one election to the other. We are going to make sure that we don't disappoint the people of Nigeria. We are going to make sure that we give our best to the people of this country and to the electoral process. And we must also make sure that we bring our elections to both domestic and international standards that everybody will be proud of.
INEC National Commissioner on Information and Voter Education, Mr. Festus Okoye, thank you so much for joining us on Newsday. You're watching Newsday.
Thank you so much for this privilege.
You're welcome.